Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P. Joe Pisapia. That, of course, is Mike Tagliere under the hat, as always. That's where he lives at all times. And it's you, and we're talking all things football today. In fact, we are talking AFC West. We're going to preview the team's fantasy style as we've been going through every single division here, one at a time, for you, for your football prep. And you know what's so great about that? You can go through and burn all of these in like an hour or so and go through all the different conferences, get everything set up, get ready, get caught up with everything you might have missed. We're also going to talk about the sleepers, the busts, and the breakouts from this division. And we're going to play a little game. What's Trending is back. And we've got a great guest for you lined up too. Before we bring in the guest, I just want to say, Tags, once again, you are a tough guy. You've had a lot of bad luck going since you moved to Tennessee, and now you got to find a new dentist too. I mean, you're falling apart here. I mean, old age is not treating you well, my friend.
It's weird. I don't know. I'm playing hurt today. I would say I'm 80% certain I'm gonna have a root canal later today, and I have to do another podcast after this one. So if I start talking a little funny, you know why. But no, overall it's okay. I'm here. I'm talking football. I mean, our guest today, I haven't talked to her in quite some time, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, lucky you, because she's here, and she's also part of our team here at Fantasy Pros. You probably know her from there, from all the cool videos she's been rocking out for us, getting everybody caught up with what's going on and all the lists and all the players. Plus, she also works at the Fantasy Footballer. She writes there. She works at NBC Sports Edge. I thought that I worked a lot of places back in my heyday, but Lauren Carpenter, you might put me to shame. I am so happy you're here, and might I also add, a contributor to the Fantasy Black Book 2021 on Amazon right now, bestseller. So Lauren Carpenter, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing better than Tags, that's for sure. Root canal coming up soon. What? Yeah. That is no fun. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
No, well, we're very excited to have you here on the program, and more excited to have you here with us as part of the family, because that's what you do. You're part of the family now. You join us. We hang out. We talk football. This is what we do here. We're a big family, and if you want to be part of this family, make sure you go subscribe to Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, where you can watch all these glorious shows that we're talking about. All you got to do is go to YouTube, go find Fantasy Pros, click subscribe, and of course, don't forget that notifications button so you know when all the new content drops. We've got a new Fantasy Feud coming up in a few days. You're not going to want to miss that. That is always a good time. But before we get in, I want to also remind everybody we got a giveaway. The Stefon Diggs autographed jersey is not going to give away itself, kids. So go out there, go to fantasypros.com/contest, and you can get that right now. You got to leave a review of the show on Apple Podcasts or CastBox. You screenshot it. You go to fantasypros.com/contest. You upload that. You fill out the form. Bang. Stefon Diggs jersey just shows up. It shows up at your house. It's unbelievable. And again, you are then entered in all the other following contests. So it's easy. It's free. Go do it. Get yourself something nice, okay? And, you know, Tags will get him a nice jersey, too. Maybe like a little bib, too, from all the fun stuff. You're going to enjoy that weird sucker thing in your mouth? Because that's going to be your afternoon there, Tags.
Hell no. I'm a baby when it comes to mouth work. Like, legit, I'm going to tell them to knock me out. I'm going to be like, just end it. End it. I don't care if I wake up 2 days from now. 2 days from now, I could wake up, and as long as I don't feel anything from that, like, I can't stand people touching my mouth. It's the worst.
Lord. All right. On that note, let's transition to happier things. So let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's pretty happy there. They got a pretty good team. Well, fell a little short last year, but that's because Tom Brady, youth and skill is no match for old age and treachery. Lauren, let's talk about the Chiefs and this offense, too. Mahomes comes back. Obviously, so much of the scoring goes through him. I know Tags has talked quite a bit about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and how he thinks he's ready to kind of take that next step. And although there were some games last year he did, there's some inconsistencies, including when Le'Veon Bell showed up in the town. So how do you see first the running back situation working out here, and Helaire, can he make that jump in your mind to being a more reliable fantasy asset on a weekly basis?
I do think that he can take a step forward. Do I really believe in it enough to want to reach for him in a draft? Not yet. I'm not risky like that. I don't know if I can really fully believe in it, but if it happens, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, if he does happen to fall in drafts because of his production from last year, I'm okay maybe taking a slight risk in taking him. But yeah, I think there's every opportunity for him to take a step forward in this offense. But for me, this offense runs through Patrick Mahomes. So it doesn't really say a lot of ground and pound for me. This is a lot of air. This is a lot of Travis Kelce. This is a lot of Tyreek Hill. But can he capitalize and do better this year? I think so.
All right, now we all know the assets. We know that Mahomes, brilliant. Tyreek Hill, we all know what he is, and Travis Kelce, all-world best tight end there is. Who is the other guy in this offense? Is Mecole Hardman possibly that guy? You see Byron Pringle have some moments. You see Demarcus Robinson have some moments. But do you think it really is just it's Hill, it's Kelce, and then everybody else is ancillary? Or is there room for another asset, in your opinion, Lauren, that you think might be worthy of a selection?
Check mark on ancillary. I will be using that later today.
You're welcome.
I love fun words.
You come for the fantasy football, you stay for the vocab. It's that word of the day toilet paper that Yates got me. I love it. It's great.
That is what? I need to get this. Do
Yeah.
they sell that in some place I can buy it very quickly? But I do kind of like a little bit of Mecole Hardman here. He's the Tyreek Hill 2.0. I think that he could take a step further, but again, these are flash in the pans for me. I'm going to stick with what I know from this offense, not overthink it and not try to get cute. But if some of these pieces are available later in your drafts, why not? Because this is just explosive. There's so little working against this team. And then you add a chip on their shoulder from their, Super Bowl appearance. I'm willing to take a gamble on that. Again, not really reaching for them, but these pieces are going to be explosive in the right matchup. It's trying to guess which matchup that's going to be. Now, of course, if there's injury, we don't ever want to wish that on anybody, then yeah, I think I might want to snag someone off the waiver wire like in the middle of the season in case that happens. But for me, I'm focused on those main guys. And if there's someone like a Demarcus Robinson or Mecole Hardman who's available, sure, I might take a shot. But, we're talking about one of the best offenses in the NFL.
Now, Tags, I
No
know
brainer.
that you're. I know, Tags, that tooth pain is really sharp right now, but I don't know if that hurts as much as Lauren's take on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because you love Helaire and you want to reach for him so bad. So give me the opposite end of the argument. I'm teasing a little bit, but you know what I mean.
I don't reach for anybody. What I love though about Edward,
I'm like Tagliere. I reach for no
I'm
man.
too level-headed for that. I really am. It's just I always understand both sides of the argument, but this one, it's like the classic overreaction where you have a running back who people are pissed at because they drafted him as I think his final ADP was like RB6 last year. So when you draft him there and you see him fall and finish as RB21 or wherever he did, it's obviously a bust, and people are looking at that and using it as a reason not to draft him this year. We still have everything in place. The reason that we wanted to draft him as a top 6 running back is because there's really no other competition on the roster. Darrell Williams has been there forever. Is he a fine, competent backup? Sure. But is he anything that's going to overtake Clyde Edwards-Helaire? No. Is he a first-round draft pick? Still is. Is it still the same coaching staff that drafted him? It is. Do they still love him? Yes. This is a guy that was the RB11 through 6 weeks before they signed Le'Veon Bell, and he only scored 1 touchdown during that time. I said it before, I'll say it again. If he scored just 1 more touchdown during those 6 weeks, he would have been the RB6 during that time. So it's like it's a small sample size, I get it. But then you look forward with Le'Veon Bell, he only got 12.7 touches per game from that point forward, and then he missed a couple games at the end of the year. Still, Clyde Edwards-Helaire finished with 1,100 total yards. This is a high-scoring offense. You have to find where the points are going to come from, and honestly, the touchdowns are what were really lacking last year. So as long as those touchdowns come back, and I should fully expect they do. And Joe, you said that they lost to Tom Brady. They lost because they couldn't run the damn ball. Because they basically had Patrick Mahomes dropping back with no offensive line. It was the worst play calling I've ever seen out of Andy Reid. And I think part of it came down to his son and the off-the-field stuff that was going on a couple days before the Super Bowl. So I don't think his head was right for that game. But they rebuilt the interior of the offensive line. They've obviously rebuilt the entire offensive line, I should say. And Kyle Long there to anchor at guard. And I know Kyle Long retired and came back. He did not want to play for the Bears anymore. He said that's the reason he retired. He did not want to play for the organization anymore. He was a Pro Bowl guard, a guy that was clearing lanes for Jordan Howard for quite some time. Edwards-Helaire, another guy, 75 targets is what I'm projecting him for. So when you have a 3-down back tied to the best scoring offense in the NFL, first-round draft pedigree, they didn't add another running back outside of Jerick McKinnon. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is someone that right now he's RB19. That's where he's going, ECR, ADP. That's right where he's at. And that's falling too far. Am I going to reach for him in like the second round? No. But if you want to take the whole Travis Kelce or take 2 wide receivers early approach and say you're going to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 3rd or 4th round, sign me the frick up. But that's basically where I'm going to take him. I think the 3rd round is a fair price for him because you're not erasing all the equity you potentially have, but you're getting in on him before he falls to someone in the 4th round.
Listen.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you in terms of where Hilaire's at. The overcompensation for last year's disappointment, where people inflated it too much, it got out of control. It got to a point where not only did it had to over-deliver,
Yeah.
That's a problem. And now it's corrected itself, and now it's in
It's
a
like
much
Kyle
better
Pitts
place.
this year, where it's like you're building it into where he has to break out in order to justify where you're drafting him. So you're removing all potential equity. This year, you're getting Edwards-Helaire at a discount, and it's certainly worth it, in my opinion.
All right, let's go switch gears to a team that has a lot more questions about it. A wacky offseason, to say the least, for the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr continues to be the quarterback of the Raiders, despite the fact John Gruden, I feel like, annually is trying to replace him. Yet he can't seem to do it. And it's funny, last year he finished as QB 13, and Carr's got a couple straight years of 4,000 yards. He's capable. As a secondary quarterback in a superflex, he's all right. The real question comes down to what's the rest of this offense look like and who's the person. We know what Darren Waller's role is. That's not a question. But, Lauren, when we look at this running back situation, now that Kenyon Drake has shown up, do you think this is the motivating factor where Josh Jacobs goes, hey, wait a minute, this is my backfield, and he takes it to the next level? Or is it the opposite, where all of a sudden now Kenyon Drake really could eat into that touch share that he has and make this a very muddy situation for fantasy owners?
Josh Jacobs is dead to me. I mean, after last season, I'm over it. I'm so over it. After last season, he broke my heart and, like, specifically, intentionally just messed with fantasy managers. Yeah. It was like week 14 or something. I don't remember. That
was a D.
It was devastating. It was, yeah, he's dead to me. So, but in all honesty, I do think that this is a situation where this is going to be very confusing for fantasy managers. And this is not as cut and dry as, like, your line from scrimmage back when Josh Jacobs, and then you have your pass-catching running back. It's not as clear. So, because Kenyon Drake, he has potential to be an RB1, and he has those kinds of numbers that could make him an RB1 potential. So now you're looking at a situation where you're like, okay, well, who is going to get the goal line? Can we predict who is going to be getting those red zone touches? Who is going to be getting those third and goals? I don't really know, and I'm nervous about that. So for me, this is going to really I say this a lot, but it's going to be about value and, like, who I think is going to be the better one. Unfortunately, there really aren't that many teams where there's a clear-cut RB1 that I can rely on. So I might have to dive into this really stinky, gross situation that is the Raiders' backfield. And, like, it's like that time when you break up with somebody and then, like, you have to get back together with them because you're, like, going to some special event
like
that you've had planned for a year.
It's like, well,
yeah, and then you have to, like, pretend that you're friends. Yeah. Yeah, and you're like, yeah, this is my, hey, like, that's kind of how I feel. I'm not sure really what to do about this situation. But I could give Josh Jacobs a chance to make up with me.
I like that. I like that you're giving Jacobs another chance, but I think but this is the problem. This is where people go wrong. They always go, well, maybe it'll get better, or maybe I can change them. You got to stick with your gut. Your first gut was he's dead to me, and you got to move on. This is the problem. This is why people circle around in these terrible relationships. You got to break up. All right, let's switch gears to the wide receivers, and then we'll go to Tags for his take on the Raiders. I'm looking at this wide receiving core, and look, maybe Ruggs does show you a little bit more. I am not a Bryan Edwards guy. I know Yates likes him. Renfro's always interesting to me in deeper leagues because I think there's always that potential. We know Waller's all world. But John Brown's a guy I keep circling because I feel like when John Brown is healthy and on the field, which isn't always, John Brown's a productive guy. He has some really good games there with Josh Allen the last couple of years in Buffalo. I like him in this offense with Carr. He's one of my late circle, free square guys who will probably be on my roster for the first month or so of the season, and I'll get some productivity and cut him. Are you excited or even willing to draft any of these wide receivers from the Raiders?
No, I'm not at all. I'm being a little bit facetious here. I am interested in John Brown also because I think you can get him so late in drafts that he's worth, stash him, see what happens. Sorry, just for anyone not watching, I just completely got my earring and my hair at the same time.
I knock my hair into my face all the time.
I karate chopped my own face. Yeah. It was fantastic. That's what I get for bad mouthing the Raiders. I guess there's like a Raiders karma here, like getting ready to judo chop me. But I'm interested in John Brown because of the things that you said. He can be productive. He has shown that he can be productive. So we'll see if that can equate to the Raiders. But I mean, if there's one offensive receiver on this team, receiving pass catcher, I should say, I'm going to go with Darren Waller, and I'm going to keep that easy. Mm-hmm. That's someone that I know is going to get the production, and that's what we want in fantasy football is the consistency. So I will take a flyer out on him late, but other than that, I'm going to kind of stay away from this if I possibly can.
Tags, give me your fly around about the Raiders' backfield and the wide receiving core, because it is messy to say the least. You have the clarity in terms of Waller, but after that, clarity is not something you see in Las Vegas here.
The Raiders under John Gruden have been consistently trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. That's basically the analogy I would use, is that they're just trying to grab a bunch of players and hopefully they work. And now they're getting rid of offensive linemen. And I wasn't in on Josh Jacobs last year. I didn't like Josh Jacobs last year. And for the same reason that I really don't like anybody in this team, is because the offensive play calling has just not fit their strengths. They did not build around Henry Ruggs. If you're going to draft him over Jerry Jeudy, you're going to draft him over CeeDee Lamb, you better utilize him to his strengths. They don't do that. They're using him in strictly a field stretching role, which concerns me. Bryan Edwards is someone that I liked as a receiver, and it's like, you draft him in the third round, okay, how's he going to get on the field now? Because if you're not playing Ruggs in the slot, then Hunter Renfro's off the field. And it's like, what are you guys doing? Hunter Renfro's been one of the most stable pieces for you, but you drafted Henry Ruggs saying you're going to play him in the slot. They just don't know what they're doing, basically what it comes down to. And then Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake they almost had parallel seasons last year. They were both excellent goal line backs. They scored touchdowns to make up for weak fantasy performances. They weren't utilized in the passing game, even though they both have the skill set to do that. So now they put them both in the same backfield. Do I think that Josh Jacobs, am I going to go the other direction this year? I think I am going to have some Josh Jacobs. I think it reminds me a lot of like David Montgomery last year, where it's a running back that I can say he's going to get 225 plus carries. I know that. He may not be heavily utilized in the passing game, but he is going to get some goal line opportunities. He's going to be a solid low end RB2. If you want to take that approach to take, again, wide receivers earlier, and you're looking for a workhorse running back in the 4th or 5th round, I got Jacobs, I think, in the 6th round of a mock the other day, which was kind of crazy. And again, I'm not in love with Jacobs. I didn't like him last year, but this year he might come at a little value. Because think about it. Jacobs has been splitting work with DeAndre Washington, Jalen Richard, these guys. Like, those guys were getting the majority of targets while they were still on the roster. Jalen Richard's still there. But I can't hate Jacobs too much, because I do know he's talented, but at the same time, I have no trust in this coaching staff. You have to limit expectations for anyone on this team, because the offensive play calling is just so bad.
As a flex RB is fascinating. As an RB2, I think you're in trouble. I'm going to keep it real simple. That's where
But is he going to go? I mean, he's Josh Jacobs. Is he really going to fall to that place where you can get him and you? I mean, I don't think so. That's my only problem with it. And then I'd be more, and I'd be more willing to look at Kenyon Drake in that situation, because if they are going to be like a 1A, 1B, I might as well get Kenyon Drake later on in the draft if they're going to have similar numbers. So Josh Jacobs. Bye-bye.
Excellent point. All right, if you want to make more putts, the perfect practice mat is trusted by more than 100 tour pros, including Masters champion Dustin Johnson. The perfect practice putting mat is the perfect gift for all of the dads in your life. So go to perfectpractice.golf. Use that code FantasyPros to get 15% off your offer. Again, that's perfectpractice.golf. And use the code FantasyPros to get 15% off of your order, thanks to us here at Fantasy Pros. And once again, Dad will be happy. You help him with his putts, help him with his golf game, and we help you with your fantasy football game, which brings us to the next team here, which is the Los Angeles Chargers. Certainly a glorious time to be alive for Charger fans, getting Justin Herbert all of a sudden in year one, looking like a franchise quarterback, which I got to say, I don't think anybody saw the development of Justin Herbert happening that quickly in a rookie season. But alas, it did. Austin Ekeler still very viable in terms of PPR running back, that's for sure. And then you got a good wide receiving core here too, with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Of course, with Williams, it's always about health. They've added Jared Cook in. Tags, we'll start with you on this one. Austin Eckler's value for you, because I feel like this is a running back that still people have some questions about. They kind of view him as a low-end RB1, but in terms of the other running backs on this roster, Justin Jackson's had some opportunities. Josh Kelly had fumble issues. Is it really kind of Eckler's running backfield to basically just run away with at this point? And if he does, is Ekeler a better investment than people realize?
I think so, yeah. I mean, even when I did my initial rankings before I did projections, I had Ekeler, I think, at like RB12 or 13. I ended up moving him up to like RB8 or RB9 just because the projections, the way they came back, I only projected him for 200 carries. So it wasn't like I was going over the top with that. And we're talking about a 17-game season. So what are we really talking about here? 12, 13 carries a game? That's definitely doable. He's also the only running back outside of Christian McCaffrey that I projected for 100 targets. Those targets are so highly valuable. We've talked about it with Travis Etienne. People want to make a big deal about, they're using me as a wide receiver. That's a good thing, people.
That's a great thing. Who's complaining about that? Send them to my house.
A lot of people are saying that they drafted him to be a wide receiver. They didn't draft him to be a wide receiver. They're just using him in different ways. Austin Ekeler is that way. Justin Herbert showed last year that it really wasn't just Phillip Rivers that was targeting the running backs. Austin Ekeler is just a fantastic receiver out of the backfield, and Herbert was targeting him just as much, if not more, than Phillip Rivers ever did. So he's obviously going to be fine. My favorite guy on this team, the value in terms of right now, is Mike Williams. He's a wide receiver that has 1,000-yard season under his belt. He has a 10 touchdown season under his belt. You put those with Justin Herbert, because Mike Williams, let's be real, he played with Phillip Rivers on his last legs of his career. Mm-hmm. He didn't look very good in his final days with the Chargers, went to Indianapolis, played a little bit better, and then just decided to retire. But Mike Williams is a guy that puts his like body on the line every single week, and unfortunately it's led to some injuries, but at the same time, if he's a guy that stays in the field, now tied to Justin Herbert, one of the up-and-coming superstars in the NFL, getting him as your wide receiver 4, you can get him as a wide receiver 5 right now in drafts, but if you get him as your wide receiver 4, is a guy you don't necessarily have to rely on every single week because, again, injuries do pop up. But when he is healthy, I do believe he's going to be a top 30 wide receiver play most weeks in this new offense. So I'm really digging Mike Williams, current ADP wide receiver 56, which is bananas.
You can check that out over on Fantasy Pros to see the ADP and the ECR. Go to fantasypros.com for all of that under rankings. Lauren, this is difficult because for me, I've been a Mike Williams guy many, many times, and unfortunately, very disappointed. So this is a relationship that keeps ending badly for me. We talked about these relationships sometimes that don't always work out. And I'm here with Tags every day, and we're talking football, and so many times Mike Williams inevitably comes up in a mock, in a conversation about wide receivers, and he's starting to push me in a direction where I'm starting to learn to love again, but I need somebody else here besides Tags to talk to me about Mike Williams. Do you want to talk me off the ledge about these injuries? Because now we're adding another game where Mike Williams has to stay healthy, sort of, kind of, in that realm. So give me your take on Mike Williams and the rest of this offense, including Ekeler, and whether or not you think Herbert can repeat that incredible first season.
Oh, I definitely think that Herbert can repeat that. And not only that, but take a step forward. I mean, he's so explosive. I'm so excited about Justin Herbert. But when it comes to Mike Williams, you have to understand the expectations and limit those expectations and be realistic about it. He's not going to be your wide receiver 1 week in and week out. So if you make sure that you know where you're drafting him and for what purpose, then you're good. He's going to be one of those guys that can come down with amazing catches and give you 12, 13 fantasy points in 1 week and then goose egg or get 2 points the following week. You have to know that going in about Mike Williams, and then he won't break your heart so bad. So you got to know these things beforehand, and then your expectations won't be completely blown out of the water. But for me, I really like Keenan Allen. I like a lot of things that are going on in this offense this year. And Tags, just to mention a little bit what you talked about when it comes to Austin Ekeler and his pass catching ability, which is monumental. There's no argument there. He did only get I think it was like 3 or 4 targets a couple times later on in the season last year, and his fantasy production just wasn't there. They were trying to use him as a classic running back, and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. He needs to be targeted to be successful, and if you're in a PPR, half PPR, he's going to be dynamite. So there should never be any questions when it comes to Austin Ekeler, and I love it. I'm so excited about the Chargers. For anyone not watching, I was doing like the hand rubbing together, like, well, some kind of big Bond villain. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I think everybody's still sort of saying, oh, wow, that happened. Well, I don't know if I want to buy into it, and I feel like all of us, if we buy into it, we're getting it at a good value this year, and if it repeats, which we all think is likely to do, then my goodness, that's going to make us very successful with the shares that we have of these players, and I think that's kind of the overall tone of this team. Before we get to the overall tone of this next team here, and the last one, the Denver Broncos, I want to tell you guys about Omaha Steaks, which is just brilliant. I have my Omaha Steaks package game the other day. Glorious. I had to basically make a whole section of the freezer. I got so much stuff from them. And Father's Day is just around the corner. Summer's almost here, and the time is right for grilling in the streets. Let me tell you something. omahasteaks.com. You type in the code FantasyPros into the search bar, and the order comes up for the Get Out and Grill assortment. Now, look, let me tell you about the Get Out and Grill assortment, because right now this package is 59% off. It includes 20 entrees, guaranteed for your dad to love, ultra juicy burgers, plump chicken breasts, sides, desserts, and, of course, the apple tartlets that Tags just can't stop eating, which is probably why he has to have the root canal. Too many cavities. Stop eating the tartlets, Tags. And 4 10-ounce butcher-cut New York strips. These strips are aged for 30 days. And you know what? I mean, the age obviously just makes things better. Look at me. Plus, you also get 4 New York strip burgers with your order, and it's selling out fast, so don't miss out. Go to omahasteaks.com. Again, the code is FantasyPros in the search bar. 59% off the Get Out and Grill assortment. You get the 4 free New York strip burgers as well. It doesn't get better than this. Go to Omaha Steaks today. And thank you to Omaha Steaks as a sponsor of today's show. Let's talk about them Broncos. I got to tell you, I know some people are keep whining about the Broncos, and now they've gone to Bridgewater, and Drew Lock isn't very good, and Bridgewater is not much better. You know what? I think he's better than people realize. And I'm sick and tired of everybody just kind of being negative about Teddy B. That's right. Throw up the heart symbol, Lauren, because I'm gonna defend my boy Teddy B. This is a football player. This is a guy who came back from a leg injury that they said he might not walk properly anymore. He's out there playing football. Look, does he have the same kind of deep... I'm going to do a tags now. I'm going to interview myself. Does he throw the same kind of deep ball Patrick Mahomes does? No. Do I think he's going to be a decent enough quarterback? Yes. Do I like what he did last year at Carolina and he made some good fantasy wide receivers? Of course he did. There you go. There's my tags invitation. So look, I think that this is actually a good move. Lauren, I want to know what your thoughts are on hopefully the addition and starting quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, or if it's going to be locked. But tell me about your thoughts with Sutton, Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and all these guys in the wide receiving core if Teddy B is indeed the quarterback, which I think that's where things are trending. You talk to me about it.
So this is my heart I threw up for you, Joe, and here it is, broken.
No!
That's what just happened. Because it's Drew Lock, okay? Do you want to have, like, a light chai tea, or do you want to have a double shot espresso throwing the football? That is Teddy Bridgewater, who is the light chai tea, and the double espresso is going to be Drew Lock. Now, Drew Lock only played 5 games when he first came out 2 years ago. He only played 13 games in the hot mess of 2020 of last year. I think that he can get it done. He has to prove and have the opportunity to be able to say, no, I suck, for real.
Well, he didn't show you that enough last year?
No, he didn't. He's young. He's a baby.
Come on,
give him a chance. Give him a chance. And I do this because I'm such a homer, guys. I am a graduate of the University of Missouri, so this is why I have so much love for Drew Lock. But I also really like Teddy Bridgewater too. So I just wanted to show that heartbreaking, moment
fair.
there.
That's fair.
But I think in either situation that we have, no matter who the starting quarterback is going to be, there is going to be a step forward, I believe, for this offense because of the addition of Courtland Sutton, who is coming back into this offense, which I think only means good things across the board. So I think it's going to be a little bit more explosive. Also more turnovers and probably losses for the Broncos if it's Drew Lock. Maybe more wins, maybe not as exciting if it's going to be Teddy Bridgewater. But either way, Courtland Sutton is going to add a dynamic piece to this offense that is going to help Jeudy, is going to help KJ Hamler, it's going to help whoever we have in at running back, whoever that starting is going to be, or maybe it's going to be both of them. I'm not quite sure. So we'll see. But I think Courtland Sutton is going to be the key piece in this offense, no matter who is at quarterback, because Courtland Sutton can get it done. He's that true alpha wide receiver, and I can't wait for him to be back.
I feel like some years I'm a year early on a player, and I had all the Jeudy last year, and you see it, and you see frustrations at times and moments, and I go, oh, this could be so good, this could be so good, this guy could really become a star in the NFL. Tags, I feel like you kind of feel the same way. I know you've kind of mentioned that, and I feel like I have to go back into that well again with Jeudy again this year, and he's actually coming at arguably a better value this season as opposed to last. So what are your thoughts on Jeudy, on this quarterback situation, and Courtland Sutton as well, as we kind of pick apart the passing game of the Broncos?
I like both receivers. I think it just depends on who the quarterback is, who I'm going to like more. Jeudy, I think, is the more complete wide receiver. Now, does he have an issue with drops? He absolutely does. Does Courtland Sutton have that same problem? No.
Are you interviewing yourself again? Yes.
Well, yeah. You're welcome, Joe.
Makes my life easy. I'm just going to take off one day.
It comes back to the idea of Drew Lock being, and it's funny because KJ Hamler was interviewed at practice yesterday, and he said Drew Lock is more of a gunslinger, Teddy's more of a timing-based quarterback. And it goes to exactly what I was talking about in the show the other day, was that if Drew Lock were to take over, if he's going to go into the season as a starter, I'm going to like Courtland Sutton a lot more because he's willing to throw into tight coverage. Courtland Sutton is not a natural separator. He's more of a guy that you have to trust in those one-on-one situations. Whereas Jeudy is a guy that we could make a highlight reel out of the times he made defenders look stupid last year. But Drew Lock doesn't even look his direction because he's not a timing guy. He's just kind of wandering around behind the line of scrimmage, figuring out what the hell to do. Teddy Bridgewater is more of the timing-based quarterback. We've seen him support multiple fantasy wide receivers in the past. So if Teddy actually takes the starting job right from the get-go, I believe both Sutton and Jeudy might be top 30, top 36 options on this offense. I would like Jeudy a little bit more just because I think that there's potential for him to just like blow the roof off all projections because he is that talented. He's basically a bigger version of Calvin Ridley. And I was like the biggest Calvin Ridley supporter coming out, but Jeudy is a bigger version of that. It just doesn't have the hands that Calvin Ridley does. But again, drops can be overrated at times.
I was going to say, but you can also improve there. You know, I think that's something you can improve. That's practice. That's working on things and stuff like that. I mean, that's something that can.
We've all seen Little Giants.
I mean, come on. You know, you get the stick 'em
movie.
on. This is 2 days in a row with Little Giants references, which, by the way, can't get enough of. All right, so give me your quick take on the backfield because I want to make sure we have enough time for our little game and have some fun here with our guests. So, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. How do you approach this backfield, Tags, in terms of draft capital?
You don't invest a whole lot in either of them because I do believe it's going to be a timeshare. We had Philip Lindsay splitting touches with Melvin Gordon last year, even though Gordon was really good. Gordon's a really good running back. That's not taking anything away from Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is going to be a good running back in the NFL too. But clearly we see this as a timeshare situation. They've even talked about Mike Boone getting some touches. So therefore, I don't have any of them ranked above, I think, RB 26 or 27. So I'm unlikely to get Melvin Gordon if I'm waiting that long. And Javonte Williams, the truthers out there, they're going to be willing to spend a pick in that range, and I'm just not willing to do it. So it's just not an offense that I feel like you need to proactively go after, considering it's going to be, I'm guessing it's going to be like somewhat of a 55-45 split.
All right, fair enough. Lauren, how are you going to approach this backfield for the Denver Broncos with Williams and Gordon?
I mean, we can tease this a little bit because I may talk about this in a little bit later on this podcast. Who knows?
Connectivity.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but I'm interested in what's going on in Denver when it comes to that running back situation. But again, I'm going to stick with what I always say. I'm looking at value here in my drafts. Am I going to be targeting them like Tag said? No. I may want to avoid that situation if I possibly can, but there could be opportunity here. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Am I going to be the one that's going to be like, I'm looking forward to it while they're sitting on my bench? No, I may not be that person, but I could watch and just be like, that was interesting.
All right.
Glad I don't have to deal with it.
Real quick, you guys. Noah Fant. Is this the year where it steps up another notch? Yes or no? Lauren, we'll start with you.
I think if Courtland Sutton's there and healthy and stays on the field, yes. I think so.
Okay, so they're opening things up. Tags, does that concern you with all the wide receivers healthy and on the field? Is that better for Fant or worse?
Yeah, I have to say worse just because I can't predict the same target floor every single week because there's just so many mouths to feed here. KJ Hamler's a really good receiver too. Alberto, he's going to be back in the offense. He was stealing some targets as well. So it's like all of a sudden you start thinking like, is Drew Lock going to throw for 30-plus touchdowns? Abso-freaking-lutely not. So, therefore, you need to start dialing back expectations for some of these guys. Yes, Lauren, I see the little chin thing there. But, no, I worry about the overall scoring potential of the offense. I think that this team is one quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. If Aaron Rodgers were to be traded there, if that were to happen, this team would have a shot at a Super Bowl because they have one of the most talented pass-catching cores out there, and their defense, now healthy under Vic Fangio, should be phenomenal as well. So, I'm rooting for you Broncos fans.
All right, let's do some sleeper, bust, and breakout. We'll go around real quick, lightning round style, and then stick around for a little what's trending after that. So I'll start with my sleeper, which is John Brown, because, you know, sometimes sleepers aren't always the young guys. It's the old farts sometimes that get kind of forgotten about, and then they show up like Nelson Aguilar did for the Raiders and all of a sudden rattle off, half a dozen touchdowns in as many weeks. I like that. That works for me. So give me John Brown as a sleeper in this division. Tags, who's your sleeper in the AFC West?
I went a little deeper. I do like the John Brown one. It's a good one. But Josh Palmer, the wide receiver the Chargers drafted in the third round, excellent route runner. Route runners translate from the college to the pros. Yeah. The raising competition for guys that are speedsters or guys that just relied on physicality to get open, it's tougher for them to translate to the NFL. But Palmer's a route runner, and Mike Williams has dealt with injuries. Keenan Allen, throughout his career, has dealt with injuries. They're both, Keenan Allen's getting up there in age, and then you look at it and you're like, Hunter Henry's gone. Jared Cook's an old fart. So you start going through it, and and it's like, you look at it and you say, is he one injury away from seeing a consistent 5-6 targets a game? I think that's very possible. So when you're looking for true sleepers, which the term sleeper is so difficult to distinguish nowadays.
Yes, I know.
But Josh Palmer's a deep one that is tied to a fantastic quarterback.
All right, you're going to have to defend your sleeper now to Tags because he's an old fart, isn't he, Lauren?
I know, you took my fun segue, and I was going to look really smart, so thanks, Tags. But I'm going to stick with old farts and the Chargers, and I'm going to go with Jared Cook. See, it was going to be really cool if you didn't take it from me. Darn it. Dad joke down the toilet, whatever. But yeah, I'm going to go with Jared Cook. I mean, he's outside of the top 20 for tight ends. I'm not saying he's going to be your season-long must start, but there are going to be weeks, I think, that he finishes in the tight end one conversation, and he's going to do really well. And Hunter Henry vacates 93 targets that Justin Herbert targeted him. So it's not like we're talking about a new, quarterback situation here at all. We're talking about a place where he can come in and immediately assume a role that he can do. He's a big-bodied tight end. He can get open and he can make contested catches in the red zone. So I'm excited to see what Jared Cook is going to do, and you can get him for super duper cheap in your drafts.
All right, let's stick with you here, Lauren. Give me your bust this year.
All right, I'm going back to what I was alluding to before. So if you guys were, on pins and needles, fear not. Melvin Gordon is going to be my bust from this division. And the reason why is because we were talking about Javonte Williams. He has 1 year left on his contract, and I wonder if that's going to equate to running his wheels off or if it's going to equate to more of the timeshare that we were talking about. Either way, I don't think it's really good for him because that spells injury to me. But also, he may be facing a possible suspension that I think people maybe haven't, thought about too much because we really haven't talked about it all that often. But he may be missing time as well, which then gives Javonte Williams a chance to step into that role. And Tags, you were talking about Mike Boone being a part of this offense as well. So I think that people are going to have this idea of Melvin Gordon being a solid RB1 that's going to have those numbers, that's going to be consistent, and I think people are going to be very disappointed, and they're going to overdraft and spend too much capital in order to get him and be very sad because of it.
Well, you stole my bust, which is Melvin Gordon. I had the same
That's why I
run.
submitted it early.
That's why I submitted it early, and that's okay. You know what? Look, everything you said is correct, and I also want to remind people, too, as good as Melvin Gordon has been at times in his career, is also he has not been there for the end of seasons. Now you're adding another year of age, another game to the schedule, a young running back right behind him who I think is really good. So no surprise there. The opposite's going to be my breakout, Javonte Williams. So I'll just get rid of all mine right now here and unload the tank because I do think as the season goes on, you're going to see a lot more Javonte Williams. I think he is the better long-term investment in this season. Maybe Melvin Gordon's better short-term. So look at your roster as you construct it and see, oh my goodness, I got a roster that's really set up for success as we go, but maybe I need somebody right now to be helpful. Then maybe Gordon in the beginning if he avoids that suspension. Tags, give me your bust and your breakout because obviously I just unloaded all of mine.
It's all good. It's all good. My bust would be Henry Ruggs. Last year going into the draft, I had him ranked as my 5th or 6th wide receiver. I didn't like him a whole lot, but I felt like if he went to a team that knew how to utilize his strengths, that he could be a fantasy asset. And there was really a whole bunch of targets up for grabs there in Las Vegas. So when they signed him, immediately they started talking about, hey, we're going to use this guy in the slot. And I'm like, yes, they understand it. They get it. He's not a field stretcher. Jerry Jeudy was more of a field stretcher at Alabama than Henry Ruggs was. But it was more like get the ball in his hands on screens, use him on reverses, get him the ball in slants, get the ball in his hands and let him do some work in the open field. But they're really not treating him that way. And I have no faith in this coaching staff to start using him in the right way because, again, this all comes back to Hunter Renfrow being on the team and being a reliable slot receiver. So if he's playing in the slot, where's Henry Ruggs going to go? Are they going to start running 4 wide sets? I don't think so. So basically, Henry Ruggs is just a bust to me. And as for breakout, Lauren, I do see yours now, so I'm sorry about calling Jared Cook an old fart.
I did too, so don't apologize.
Hey,
I think all 3 of us did.
No, but my breakout would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I've talked about a lot of reasons for that. I was debating between him and another player, but rather than going that other player, I'm going to leave that to Lauren.
All right, so CEH, we all know Tags' love affair with him goes on and on. So your breakout is Jerry Jeudy, right, Lauren?
It is. So I feel like I'm very Chargers Broncos today. That seems to be my theme.
Well, it's where the value is, kind of.
That's true. And when we're talking about, the Chiefs, where is there sleeper busts and breakouts that we can really talk about compared to other players in this division? I don't think so. And I just went on about how adding Courtland Sutton back into the offense really opens up things for the other pass catchers, and I think that's going to be Jerry Jeudy. Also, another thing to remember, too, that if it is Teddy Bridgewater, who's a more reliable quarterback, maybe it's Drew Lock. Hopefully he takes a step in the right direction and doesn't just run behind the line of scrimmage like his, butt's on fire. Thanks, Tags. That was a good one, too. Hit 24 of his targets were uncatchable. It was 24% of his targets he didn't even have a shot at. So are his drops really a lot of his fault? I mean, sure, he does need to get a little bit better at that, but he was a rookie, so I understand. But I just think the overall situation for Jerry Jeudy is going to take a step forward for him, and I do believe that he has the talent to capitalize on that and then take that step forward like we're expecting from him, and I think a lot of people are disappointed with what happened last year. But I think that only gets better for him, especially for his value at your drafts.
All right, there's all the work, everybody, on the AFC West. So let's have some fun. We put in the work. Now let's have a good time. Let's
totally
do a little
nervous.
What's Trending. You should be. You should always be very nervous for whatever I have planned. Could be worse. Could have been Get to Know Me today. Oh, then you really be known. But no, a little What's Trending here. So tonight on Disney Plus, I'm very excited. So my daughter's Loki is going to premiere tonight, a new series. So I'm curious, what Marvel character, in your opinion, best suits your personality? I will start first. Clearly, Tony Stark, because his superpower is being cool and talking, and I pretty much think that's all I got. So, Tags, how about you? I want to give our guests a little bit more time to think. What Marvel character best suits your personality?
I mean, I think this would be obvious, and I think that you would say it. It's the Hulk.
Well, I know, yeah, of course,
just,
the Hulk.
Just because, like, it's almost like when he walks over to Banner and he goes, "Hey, how did you figure it out? How did you, what's the key to controlling the anger?" He's like, "The key is I'm always angry," and so it's just basically keeping it under wraps. Because I actually, believe it or not, Joe, I may seem always angry, but I have I have the best grasp on my temper of like anybody that I know in terms of like when get mad, like in terms of like actually taking it to that next level and yelling. I don't do that. I just yell at you guys in the podcast. But
that's a healthier outlet. That's good.
I'd say the Hulk. The Hulk.
There you go. All right, Lauren, your turn. Best Marvel character that suits your personality. Who is it?
This might be kind of odd, but I might go with the Wasp.
No, that's not odd.
Yeah,
no.
right?
like
right
it.
from Ant-Man? Yeah.
Just constantly working at all these different places to try to prove
I
her
know,
worth,
look.
and then finally just give her the suit. Well, somebody just give her the suit.
Give her the dang suit. Give her a shot. Gosh darn it.
Just
Her
somebody
dad's
give her
like,
the suit. I give you the
don't get
suit.
hurt.
Yeah,
I know.
I
Yeah,
like
I
that
think
one.
I might be a little bit more the Wasp, a little bit deeper dive. I mean, I was gonna go Black Widow, but I'm definitely not as like morbidly sad, I think, as she is, and like very like depressing about the future of life. And plus, like her whole relationship is very sad as well. But I like Wasp. She's like brainy. She's athletic. I want to just put that in the atmosphere that I am that. So then maybe I will aspire to be so. So I'll go with Wasp.
Very nice. All right, The Bachelorette just premiered a new season. Ugh. All right, so The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, let's all be honest here and tell the truth. Over under 1.5 seasons that you've watched of either of these shows. Lauren, why don't we start with you on this one?
Way under. It's 0.
Good for you. You're better than
Never
me.
watched it.
I was over because once upon a time when I was married, I had to watch this stuff instead of watching Marvel movies, and I sat through it all, and all I kept thinking was, I don't feel like this is the healthy way to find a good relationship. I don't know. It doesn't seem. But then again, what do I know? Bachelorette, over under 1.5 seasons for Tags, and tell the truth. I don't know what your
Joe, you
home viewing habits are. Maybe when football goes away, Tags likes to curl up a little bit and talk with all his friends about who's going to get eliminated tonight. I don't know.
I just imagine Tags in a Snuggie watching.
Oh, totally.
It's
He's got a blanket on. It's
what,
hood.
Joe, you are no Sean Coroner, and I say that because you are a bad odds maker. If you would have set the over under on 1.5 episodes, I would still be under. Lauren was under, so you're. I legit have never watched those shows. They don't do anything for me.
All right, last one here. Ferris Bueller. Somebody did a whole little study, which was very funny, and put it on the internets, which I love. Which is Ferris Bueller. How he could have skipped school and actually not been found out, which I think is hilarious because now we live in a technological age and people can be tracked and all these different things, and everyone's got cell phone cameras. Tags, true or false? You cut school in high school.
I have a fun story, real quick. I gotta tell it really quick. I gotta tell it quick. So I made the decision. I was like always the goody two. I never really went outside and like I didn't skip school, but the one time my friends convinced me to do it, and I had a friend that we went down to the bus stop and everything, and then the bus came. We kind of like slipped behind the house. We went and we called each other into school and said we had. My friend said that I had a migraine, which I did get migraines in high school. So I literally walk out the bus stop. I go to the bus stop, walk off the bus, like pretend like I'm getting off the bus, walk home. I walk in and my parents look at me. They say, how's your migraine? And it was like the worst time. And I was kind of like, oh, and they're like, well, you're lucky this is your first time. We're not going to tell you again. Don't do it. So, I mean, I got out of it because I had been good up till then, but it was like, we failed miserably. Apparently we didn't sound like adults when we called into school.
All right, Lauren, were you a goody two shoes like Tags and got caught or no?
Gentlemen, I went to a private Catholic all-girls school from first grade to senior
So the
year.
answer is yes all the time.
You couldn't pay me to stay in that school. Are you kidding me? No way. Any chance I got, I was out of there. I still graduated with an A from one of the hardest high schools in St. Louis, so I don't care. Oh my Lord have mercy. You want to talk about catty stuff and The Bachelorette? That's why I don't watch it. I lived it for 12 years. It's terrible.
That's funny.
No, you couldn't pay me to be in that school. I couldn't do it.
I actually was clever. The truth is, you do enough sports and theater and all these other activities, you get passes to get out of things, or you go on these trips and things. I was just like, well, I could either get out of school like legit or not legit. Now, that being said, there were some days, maybe some periods that, oops, I missed that class. Maybe a little extended lunch here and there, but I don't think I ever cut school. So, Mom, if you're watching, Your boy was still good, not like Tags, no migraines here. All right, I want to remind everybody you can follow our guest, Lauren Carpenter, on Twitter at StepMomLauren, but you probably know that already, and check out all of her great work at NBC Sports Edge, here at Fantasy Pros, at the Fantasy Footballers, at the Football Guys, at everywhere. She is one wasp that is working very hard to get that suit and hopefully getting closer to it. Lauren, what else you got going on besides also contributing to the Fantasy Black Book too, which again I keep forgetting to add in because there's so many tags for you.
I know. I have no idea. Like, there's like such a long list that I'm not even quite sure. But you know what I am excited about is football. I feel like we're getting so close. And you guys had Scott Fish on last week, and it harbingers the.
It does. It feels like correctly. The beginning, right?
But yeah, it's like close. The angels have emerged from the sky, and the cherubs are singing, and it's like, yes, football is almost here. I can't wait. Yes.
Football's almost here, and hopefully Tag's root canal is almost here this afternoon.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Tags, you're a tough guy.
I'm
we
hoping,
love you
man.
for always dropping all of that. Don't smash anybody. Who knows? Maybe this is your chance to turn into maybe the wrong gas. All of a sudden, next thing you know, Tags turns green, starts smashing things all over the office, and breaks out screaming about RB2s. And just kind of getting really
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I want to remind everybody, make sure you don't only just subscribe to the podcast, but also our YouTube channel as well at Fantasy Pros. And don't forget all of our great sponsors too. I want to thank Omaha Steaks. Again, Fantasy Pros in the search engine. Get that Get Out and Grill assortment for Dad, 59% off. That's like practically free. And go to perfectpractice.golf and use that code FantasyPros to get 15% off of your order. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Lauren Carpenter and Tags, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.